All right, now Isaiah chapter 33, and we'll get 34, and we'll get this all together. 34:6. 34:6. Now, the reason why you can't find this stuff in Salem Kierbon, and Hal Lindsey, and Weber, and all the rest of them, and they're good men. They believe the book. They're premillennial. Everything they know they got from Larkin. And they're good men. But the reason why they can't keep on getting more information than anybody had in 1929 is because somewhere down the line they're correcting this book or fooling with this book. Folks, the one thing you never do, you never get back to the Bible. You run to catch up with it. The Bible's always so far ahead, you never have to worry about going back to it. You always run up ahead with it. And these fellows here, they got some good books from the second coming of Christ, but they haven't got this material. They'll never get this material. The Lord, you get messing with this book, the Lord mess your mind. I don't intend the Lord to mess my mind. I don't mess with this book. I don't change anything in this book. It says, I trow not, I trow not. Does nobody understand what that means? I don't care if they understand or not. So do you? I trow not. Look it up in a dictionary and see what it means. What a bunch of hypocrites. I mean, going through here and say, well, we made 30,000 changes here, but not one single change affects any major doctrine. Well, hey, bud, if 100 archaic words don't change any major doctrine, why don't you leave them the way they are? I'm telling you, the fellows can't think. See? Even with these signs, T-H-I-M-K. When you fool with this book, God fool with your mind. I know they think I'm crazy. It's okay with me. I don't worry about that. When I find something here that doesn't make sense, I adjust my system to meet the demands of the book. I don't care how wild it gets. I'm not going to adjust the book to meet the demands of my system. And as a consequence, I begin where Bullinger quit. And Bullinger began where Larkin quit. And Larkin began where Schofield quit. And Schofield began where Moody and some of them quit. And if I were you, I'd begin where Ruckman quits. I mean, don't quit where I quit. You won't master all that book. And it hasn't been mastered. You don't worry about that. There's plenty in there nobody's got. You know, I just marvel how the Holy Spirit keeps showing people stuff and showing people stuff and showing people stuff apart from many of these boobs. And all they're doing is just rehashing what anybody's had for 50 years. I'll give you one. I'll show you an example. I was preaching out at Brother Williams' church in L.A., and there was a couple there, a guy married a German girl. What was his name? Is he your brother? He's your brother. That's how bad I am on names. It's the pastor's brother. He married a German girl, and she only been saved about 2 years, and we ate over there at the house one night, and Tom was trying to ask her how to say, God knows what he's doing, nobody else does. I think it was Gott weiß, was tun und kein anderer, and nobody else. Anyway, coming back in the car, driving back to church one night, she began to talk. And she only saved 2 years, young German girl. And she said, about a Ruckman, she said, I was reading that passage in Matthew 16. I was wondering if I maybe had something. I didn't know whether I had something or not. And she reading the King James. And she said, I was wondering there, he said, thou art Peter, upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates shall not prevail against it. You suppose that rock there was Christ? And I said, yes. And she said, well, then why doesn't it in the same verse refer to Christ? And boy, the bells began to ring in my head, and I said, so that's it. I've been through that passage 102 times, man. And trying to get, how could the church be trying to get into hell or get out of hell? Didn't he say the gates of hell shall not prevail against it? The church? How can the gates of hell prevail against the church? You trying to knock it down? You know what they all do? They spiritualize it. They say it's the powers of hell. It didn't say power, it said gates. I mean, Jonah said the earth with the bars was about me, and Christ said I got the key. It's gates. Who's trying to get in and out? Not the church. But I know somebody that got in and got out. I thought to myself, how in the world can a 2-year-old Christian pick that thing up when for 1980 years nobody got it straight? And then I thought to myself, I better check the Greek on this. So I went back there and checked the Greek to see if the gender of it matched the gender of rock, and it did. It did. Isn't that a flip? I'm telling you, upon this rock, Christ, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell won't prevail upon it. The rock himself. He'll go through and come out. Let's see you find that in the commentary. I remember I'll tell you another one. I was out in Texas one time, going on there, and I had been in trouble with somebody. Said, well, this fellow came to David, and he said, 7 years famine or 3 years famine. Remember that thing? Nathan came to David and said, I'll give you a choice of 3. 7 years, next account said 3 years. How could it be 3 and 7? Well, I got him in there coming in twice, and give him a different proposition, but that didn't work. But I've got one fellow, giving the full and fellow half the total, all that kind of, that didn't work. And then one day, out in Texas, this must have been about 7 years ago, I ran to a country Texas Baptist preacher who lived out in Graham, Texas, a little old town out there, about 6,000 people, and he lived 5 miles out of town. And you know what he said? He picked that thing up and he said, did you notice right before that happened? He said there was 3 years of famine in the land because God was mad at the Saul for killing the Gibeonites when the children of Israel promised not to kill them in the days of Joshua when the ambassadors came in acting like they were traveled from a long way. And I said, yeah. And then he said, well, look over here. And he took me over to Joab going around the country, and it took Joab something like a year and a half going around that country to get that enrollment up that God was mad at. And when the Lord told him 3, he meant 3 more. And when he said 7, it'd come to 7 if you counted the 4 before that. There wasn't anything wrong with numbers at all. But that didn't come. No Hebrew scholar found that thing. That was a Baptist preacher messing with that book.